I'm no one. Who am I? I feel socially, politically, and economically irrelevant in a society in which only employed or rich people are considered relevant for society. My creative fulfillment, however, my unconditional freedom, my unconditional existence, my life perspective, my free will, my well-being are all vitally important to me. More than ever at the age of 42. But I slowly but surely lost them during the course of my employment life, growing up and having to adapt myself within an economic system I never really felt to belong into. And due to being unemployed since almost 10 years, kicked off eventually, so to speak, from this limited and unreliable job market. Seeking for new income sources within this saturated job market has been unsuccessful so far. Nowadays, it has become an unreachable task, actually, for almost everyone with less financial resources. Also because of automation, robots, and algorithm, and of course the current global pandemic, putting so our socio-economic welfare at a considerable risk in the long term. Today I'm a social beneficiary, one of nearly 300,000 people here living in Switzerland and counting, who is under the broad dagger of social authorities, assigned as a part-time cleaning worker for about 2 years by now. It's not a work area I've been in professionally. I come from the back office commercial sector, really. Hence, it was quite of a disturbing and radical change for me at the beginning. It took me a few months to adapt myself. This job, anyway, isn't making any sort of difference financially speaking. The average earning is more or less between $300 and $500, which is being used, by the way, not to earn me money, but to keep my financial basic needs. The state pays to me at a best possible minimum by detracting it from my social benefits. I used to be a lot of creative in my childhood, till as a young adult, by drawing anything and shooting silly Star Trek videos or shorts with my brother or friends, until I got a job, because a job is far more important than having any life aspirations. I've learned anyway since I got this job about its very importance. I took this kind of occupation for granted in the past, which still is being taken for granted by this disposable society, and which still is a working field lacking on both social and financial appreciation, especially within this pandemic. And this is just one example of many. Also, I learned some few things about myself and other fellows who shared some really true bad and sad stories, experiences with me. You even wouldn't believe they could happen in such a wealthy country like Switzerland. I've become most aware, furthermore, about social and political issues, about what's really going on behind the official statements
ce n'è da tutte le parti.
addressed to
Sul
the
prato ci sono
taxpayers,
bottiglie. Ovunque.
who got absolutely no idea about living on the breadline and the reality of dealing with social authorities, which are allowed, by the way, to trample on our basic rights, socially denied by the so-called subsidiarity principle. Speaking of the high-praised Swiss social care, called that way by the clueless ones among us, this building and the people working in it is what I fear during this uncertain time period of my life. Next, to become homeless one day too. It should be a place where people in real need should get acknowledgement, human care, competence, mutual trust, comfort, and eventually the very basic monetary support they need to at least survive their uncertain and stressful life period. What they get instead is incomprehension, carelessness, social incompetence, exploitation, mistrustfulness, misplaced expectations, anxiety, mental and physical stress, financial state debts, and very often unjustified sanctions in form of cutbacks of their basic monetary needs. I've been through all that, so I know what I'm talking about. No one can last long on that road without going crazy or ill eventually. Nevertheless, better to make some bad experiences as a social beneficiary instead of living on the streets, because by living on the streets you ban yourself from the right for basic financial support, for a place to live, clothes, food. It takes some force will, for sure. I know. And yet, many citizens do rather prefer to live somewhere at the corner of a street, despite the hot summer or the freezing cold winter. Due to the shame they feel or their fears of being mistreated by social authorities. But this is the one and only reasonable choice to take within this failing system in order to at least not falling even deeper into poverty. What I fear the most is, however, indifference, prejudices towards social beneficiaries, towards homeless people, towards handicapped people, towards all the invisible groups of society shown by financially more wealthy people who do exclusively care for their own interests instead of being socially inscribed just a little. In what is happening beyond the matrix they live in. And by succeeding within this system, it becomes impossible to see how messed up it actually is. With the first link, the chain is forged, they say. And I fear that today we are forging the chain on ourselves already. By denying our freedom, our self-determination, our right to live, the inner potential deep down inside of us, regardless of our financial wealth. These are the reasons why I urgently demand for an unconditional basic income or freedom dividend as a human basic right, which can easily be financed through a financial transaction tax or by taxing big, very big corporations which do earn billions in net income each year, bringing in huge financial wealth, which we, the middle and the lower working class, the non-rich people, the poorest of this capitalistic system, don't have any access to. A UBI would eventually allow people who especially share my issue to go on with their lives, to be free to accomplish whatever they want, professionally or not, to be enabled to have the time to care for family members, for ill family members, too, close friends, even strangers, to travel and discover new territories, being able to deliver unpaid activities for charity purposes or just because, to take care for our precious environment, how it actually should be, and that independently from either the strings of the self-imploding job market, reserved more and more for the most privileged or the very lucky ones only, also independently from the strings of the dictatorial social authorities. Life over money, not money over life. Human capitalism, not incorporated capitalism. Let's be conscious and united about the issues around us, even if they do not affect us directly. We have to take responsibility as individuals for the well-being of our society. Poverty is not an accident. Nelson Mandela once said, like slavery and apartheid, poverty is not natural. It is man-made, and it can be overcome and eradicated by the action of human beings. Remember, the true value of any society can be seen in how it deals with its weakest link. Let's be vigilant of those above us who want to suppress them by abusing our democracy, by manipulating us to get just more in power. Our lives belongs to us and us alone, not to people in power. Let's take control over our economical right to exist without the dependency of an uncertain wage income alone. Let's empower ourselves to all the possibilities life has to offer. Let's get united for a universal basic income, for a human-based and equal capitalism for everyone. Let's take this pandemic as a chance for an equal change. I'd like to send my appreciation first for this opportunity, for allowing me to address my social issues and state globally, for giving me a voice which otherwise I wouldn't get elsewhere. I'm even not allowed to vote, because although being born in Swiss territory, I got immigrant parents from Italy. Why didn't you get a Swiss pass, you might ask? Well, I never really needed one. I didn't need to be a Swiss citizen to get a job 20 years ago. And getting the Swiss pass today is just too costly, as so useless. The right to vote aside. Hope this content will be considered socially valuable. Oh, and I got nothing in my pocket. It's just too hot in here, so I had to take off my pants. Sorry.